Welcome to today's Wellbeing Weekly. The topic today is how much self-care or self-care time do we need? There's quite a bit of talk about self-care and the importance of it of recent times. Mm-hmm. And I know that we've got a self-care guru in the room, Bronwyn Clee. Dion's new to me, so I'm really interested to hear from Dion as well. And, of course, Vin is one of our regular attendees on the Wellbeing Weekly show, and always great to hear what people have got to offer. So, yeah, how much self-care time do we need? How important is it, and how do we allocate the time, and how much of it? Anything connected with those concepts? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I like your titles as how they're so broad we can encompass so many different dimensions.
That you really need 100 topics.
Very often. I often have seen your names when I was more active on Blab. I saw your three names together. Mm-hmm. So I'm very curious about, could you guys discuss defining self-care?
Yeah.
And why it needs time at all. I'm curious about that before I start, flying in ideas that might be irrelevant.
That's an excellent idea. Yeah, I usually always start with saying, hey, let's define the topic we're talking about, so we can all be on the same page. So what do you reckon, Margaret? What
Good
do you think?
Okay, well, I'll take the plunge in defining it, seeing I set it. Self-care, if we turn the word around, is care of the self. Mm-hmm. And so how much self-care, how much caring for ourselves do we really need to take on board? And sometimes it could be mindful caring of the self, or it may be, I suppose I'm getting ahead of myself in the conversation. And I might be nudging people, but I had thought, but I'll put it out there. But yeah, self-care being care of the self, taking care of me, body, mind, and spirit, because I am the whole person. I'm not just my limbs that can walk on the walkway every day, and I can have a great fitness level. That is taking care of part of me. It's not the whole. Mm-hmm. And so how do we really take care of ourselves? And I'm going to leave off that other nudge I said I was going to move into. I'll just leave it there because you wanted a tighter definition rather than more broadly speaking.
And even just understanding what you three mean by self, because that word alone seems to mean different things to different people. And it means different things in it has different contexts in which it is placed. So, and I notice, not to be a stickler for grammar, but I did notice that self and care are in uppercase, which my eye takes in, and then I think, I wonder if we're referring to higher consciousness, the higher self, and the taking care of the higher self and what that would mean. And it sounded like you are holistic in what you mean by self. Did I understand correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. You've hit it exactly as to what I intended. And I love your perception of the higher self. That wasn't intended with the uppercase, but what it was intended to draw your attention to those two words that are hyphenated to make the one concept, simply because that is honing in on the topic and the importance of those two individual words combined. That's why I emphasize them with uppercase. But I love your take on the greater spirit in all of this too, because for some people that is a priority in their self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And let's look at the whole lot of it. When I talk more broadly on self-care, I did say body, mind and spirit, and I do like to delve into all of those areas. Some people will resonate with one more than another, but I'm wondering, how do we manage our time almost in taking care of ourselves holistically?
You know, I was thinking about this last night in a completely unrelated thought. That I wasn't thinking about this show at all. I was just thinking about just my projects, what I'm doing. And as I always tend to do, is because I cram so much into the day, it's not until I get to bed at night time that I start mulling over these things. And more often than not, I go into a negative mode of sort of but just putting myself down and saying, criticizing myself and saying, oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that. And, oh, this needs to be improved. And God, I still haven't done that thing that I was supposed to do 2 weeks ago. And, I can't, and I end up with insomnia because, these things stress me out, and they only get a chance to get to me while I'm in bed trying to sleep. And I thought, what am I doing? I'm beating myself up. This is literally self-harm. This is the equivalent in the physical world of getting a razor blade and cutting on my arm, like so the classic self-harm sort of stuff. And there's really no difference between that and what I was doing. I was just doing it internally, mentally. And I had to snap myself out of it and say, hey, this isn't the time and place to do this, and there never really is a time and place to do this. I shouldn't be so hard on myself. And so that definitely comes into self-care and changing my attitude to that, and actually putting a focus on it, and intentionally trying to care for myself rather than to hurt myself.
Vin, could I ask you, do you use any technique or set of techniques that are set, like go-tos, that you use when you feel yourself doing that, which is something I can relate to, so very much so. And I agree, it's nighttime when the gremlins can really just run wild in the head. And I'm very interested if you've got any particular set, or if you vary it, or if it depends on the nature of what the gremlins are on about.
Well, up until pretty much last night, I was considering my problem was that I couldn't sleep. It wasn't that I was self-harming, to use that term again. So I would have sleeping techniques that I would try to get back to sleep. So one of them is counting. I've recently begun memorizing pi. I know it sounds crazy, but I found last night that was really helpful. It was just reciting pi, and by the time I got to the 10th or 15th digit, I was asleep, and I was really surprised. But yeah, I have breathing techniques, all sorts of thought process but these are all approaches to getting to sleep. I didn't really see it in the sense of self-care.
Right. Sort of not exactly masking, but it's a kind of masking.
Yeah.
We address the problem that isn't the problem.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I do that is like, oh, this isn't the time and place. This is the time to sleep. I'll worry about all the stuff in the morning when I get up. And inevitably I'll get up and I go to the kitchen and start making breakfast. And then I'm just in that mode now. I'm in autopilot of, all right, I've got to turn the computer on. I've got to check my mail. And then we're back in the swing of the thing. And I never get to actually assess the problem until then the nighttime comes.
Again.
The cycle, yeah.
Do you, Bronwyn, do you experience the same thing? Or is that part of your...
I don't now. I used to. So I seriously can relate to all of that.
Vin's description of it is self-harm?
I do agree. And I think that the only difference I would add in there, Vin, is that the comparison that you said, it's no different to actual physical self-harm. I think there's one of the significant differences is that with physical self-harm, there's more, we can actually draw attention to that, and we've got an easier road in to being able to support people who are self-harming, whereas the emotional self-harm is deeper, and I would say darker, and often more difficult to access because of that sense of, well, it's just my sleep pattern that I need to change, whereas in actual fact, you know, my assessment of it would be, what a fantastic opportunity to look at, well, what is actually causing the interruption of sleep. We know it's stress. We know it's possibly overload. We know it's possibly, you know, this element of negative self-talk that's compounding it. And from there, you know, well, this is me speaking from what I had to look at myself. It was a matter then of looking at, well, what is it that I need to now do to change all of this? And lack of sleep is no longer an issue for me due to the busy mind and the negative self-talk. So that's, I feel very blessed that I've learned a very hard lesson. Because for me, Dion, it was, I was a chronic self-harmer, self-neglector on an emotional level. No one on the outside would have ever suspected it. Never.
It's interesting. I think that seems to be one of the hallmarks of self-harm, is that it is secretive. It is something that we engage in as a species, as humans who engage in it. I think with physical self-harm, I don't know that many people who have the problem, but I have known them. And a friend of mine, daughter, started to manifest it in adolescence, which was very frightening to her mother. And it was very, it's so secretive and self-shaming because no one else knows about it. But there's so much shame associated with it. And I think that some of the negative thought patternings that we get into become self-shaming.
Well, that's in my world. Sorry, I am so passionate about this. But
get on a top, go.
In the world that I live in, breathe in, work in, helping people resolve conflict and tension is directly attributed to a varying level of internal pain and shame that's been locked in the cellular memory. And until we can actually address that, it's almost like there's this whole layer of stories that comes before we can then get to the shame. And once you can get then into the shame and help actually redefine, reframe and recreate the new stories around what that actually was all about, in my experience, it's been really, really difficult to help people change their thoughts, feelings and behaviours without going there.
I think a lot of times people don't even, in kind of group conversations that I've had with people where they're willing to share, people, there's something about shaming that, and this is your work, so I don't mean to tell you, this is just an observation. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. That shaming in particular seems to so cloud even self-awareness, which has to happen before self-knowledge, right? So we can't, but the shaming shuts all that down so that people who suffer from it have no clue that it's even happening. They're not even sure what shame is, because they live. It's just, it's reality for them. And that's terrifying. I mean, it breaks my heart.
Shaming is very, very hard to address with people because it's at the core of who they are. Shame is that they are defective in some way at the very core. And so to be able to, it's like I was born defective.
Whereas in actual fact, the way I like to describe it is, if you could see shame as a cloak, you know, a cloak that you put, we can take it off just as easily as we've learnt to put it on. And that, I love doing that work.
And it's just, getting that image. That's a great image, Bron, and that works very well. But it's not easy work, because people will see still underneath the cloak. They can see, and nobody else can, because the cloak is like the beginning level of shame. And if they take that off, well, they've got their own actual shame, their real essence, and very, very hard work. And but yeah, wonderful work at the same time.
Yeah.
How do you get started with it? If a client comes to you and you can tell this is the issue, even if they don't know, and probably often they don't know, you're observing them, and you can tell. Where do you begin with that? How do you begin the unfolding of that onion?
Well, to me, it's like many other conditions. Let's say another one linked to that perhaps could be depression. Because people who feel shame don't feel terribly joyful and at one with the world. Everything's a bit doom and gloomy for them. So depression, it can be a manifestation of shame. They can be very much linked. And I believe that nobody wants to live in these very difficult conditions. No one chooses that. They don't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to have a depressed day today, or I'm going to feel really bad about myself. I don't think anyone wants that sort of a life. Why would you? And it becomes so hard to get through the days when that's your mindset. So I believe that these conditions, these beliefs, these essential thought patterns have been formulated over the course of their life, generally in former years, early childhood years, where somehow, through no fault of anyone else necessarily, although it may be, but the person has taken on board some sort of meaning from their various experiences, like when they were told to sit in the naughty corner, or back in the day, in our days, it was more the cane or the ruler or the end of the feather duster.
Strap,
Yeah, and over the knuckles if you couldn't play the right notes on the piano. And so can you imagine how a little child takes that form of, that experience, I'm bad. And they're told that, you're naughty, you're bad, you didn't play the right note, you didn't get your homework right. And so what does that mean for a little child? And so very early on, they take on those experiences. And I just think and those experiences or those beliefs about themselves have grown. And then they start to, in all of their experiences that occur during life, they begin to find the match. Because it's very easy. That's what they know about themselves already, and they will match. Even if it's almost a neutral experience through anybody else's eyes, they will find a way for it to be a negative experience, that it's more an assertion of how defective they are. And so it is it's looking at the experiences, in my opinion, Dion, because I believe it's the set of experiences that have amounted to this, huge belief. Then it's almost set in concrete for them. But we have to know that nothing is set in concrete.
Interesting. I think that it's funny. I mean, you see that in everything in life, that we form these these mental habits, and then we seek out in the world that which will validate them. So that no matter how horrible it is, as you remarked, who would want that kind of life? Consciously, no one. But once you get used to it, it's how reality appears to you. And
Well,
that's
it's also
validation for, how you perceive reality. I'm sorry, Bronwyn, please.
my apologies, Dion. I believe it's also about the vibrational resonance.
Yeah.
It's on a deep subconscious and unconscious level where human beings, we're pack animals. We look for where we fit, who we belong with, who we can howl with. So that there's a subconscious, unconscious magnetic force that will pull us into this vibrational resonance of who else wears the cloak of shame. And then we look for, on that, I believe, in that deeper subconscious, unconscious space, we look for the validation of we're not worthy because of the cloak of shame. We're not worthy. We're unlovable. We don't deserve, all of those awful negative thought processes that we have been fueled by. And I say we because I have. I wore the cloak of shame most of my life. I thought that's what my life was until I learnt better. And my response in regards to your question of how do you get there, like how do you take clients there, I have this really beautiful tool called the Compass of Shame that Don Nathanson created, and it's just one of the most powerful, profound and simple tools that it's the Compass of Shame has 4 polar responses on it. It's attack self, attack others, withdraw, deny. Yeah. It's just a beautiful, beautiful framework.
Say again what they are. They're the 4
Compass of Shame. The 4 polar responses are attack self, attack others, withdraw, and deny. So attack self, women tend to do that really well.
Yeah.
Men tend to attack others. It's a generic statement, but in general, women will attack self, men will attack others. Men will withdraw, go into the man cave, and women will deny. I'm fine. No. In the head, it's you stupid cow, you did it again. All of the noise. Yeah. So for me, that tool is it's just really helpful for people to then connect with, because it goes on to every level then where they can connect with that. Oh shit, I know where I sit on that, and we'll move. We'll move around the compass when we're actually steeped in the shame. But to be able to then help people step out of it and look at it from a very theoretical perspective, it's for me it's beautiful, because it's like watching the lights come on where people go, oh shit, oh right, oh god. Oh, so, and because then the next question always is, so how do I change that? And I go, now we can do the work.
So if I can bring it back to the topic, that shame and that work, if people are in that space, how do we know how much self-care, how much time should they be putting into this work?
I have to jump in here.
Go for it,
because the first thing that comes to mind was when at 28, I had a cancer scare, right? And I lived next door to this phenomenal Swami, Satchinanda Yoga Sannyasin. And she used to say to me, like, oh, it was messy in my thoughts, feelings and behaviours. And she would say to me, all you need to do is get up, like set your alarm for 4:30, meditate for an hour, and you will set your day up to be able to cope. So in her world, I had 3 little children. I had a tradie husband who I'm still loving and all. And I lived a very, very busy, demanding life within a large extended family group at that time. And honestly, I still look at this beautiful woman and go, okay, I'd agree because I thought that's what she needed to say. So, okay, I'll try. And then I'd go home and self-harm emotionally and sometimes physically, because I just couldn't cope with this. This is the strict measure that you need to take better care of yourself. So in response to that question, Marg, of how much self-care time do we need, it's such an individual response, because it will always, in my world, depend on where people are at on their journey. At the moment, for me right now personally, I need a bloody shit ton of it. Because I know that I need to keep withdrawing and topping up so that I can keep doing the work that I do and live the way that I want to live. But it won't be like this every day for the rest of my life. It will vary. It's kind of like how long's a piece of string. Each individual will come with their own set of well, these are the kinds of things, the behaviours that I demonstrate now.
Yeah.
And then the questions for me are, well, what would you like to do differently? How do you really want to feel? What are some small steps we could start putting in place so that you can then start to measure that, get a sense of success for how you feel different, and then let's come back and reflect in in agreed time space. So it's so individual in my experience, the answer to that one.
Yeah. And I think when people are feeling very low in their lives, or there's some big stuff going on, they are the times that people will probably need to increase their level of self-care time. So if you've got a lot going on, or if life's not really going your way, if you're feeling down in the dumps, in grief or trauma or depression, whatever it is, it seems it makes sense to me that you need to inject more time. You need to devote more time to self-care. And that may mean, as you suggested, Bron, professional care, even though your professional was your next-door neighbour at the time. It may mean that you check in with somebody else who can, and that's more investment in yourself, not only time, but also in new ways
or remembering some of the old ways too, Mark, because I see self-care as medication.
Yeah, I get it. I get
that's how I've learnt to reframe it.
Yeah.
It's not like the days that I get up and think, I don't need to do yoga today. I've learnt to teach myself to say, oh, you really need it today, don't you?
Anything that you say you don't.
Yeah. It's a bit like the Dalai Lama.
It's interesting to keep asking myself how much. And I can't remember which one of you just said it's like a piece of string. How long is a piece of string? Which is an expression I use a lot with clients when they say, well, how long will it take? Like how long will it take to record something? Or, well, how long is a piece of string? I don't know the answer to that. It's going to take what it takes.
Yeah.
But with self-care, the way that I think of it as trying to figure out not so much, now this is just me, not so much how, can I allocate, an hour every morning, and then could there be something that I do sort of in the lunchtime area and then again in the evening. For myself, how it seems to have manifested is the constant reminder throughout the day. The constant, it's like a checkerboard, constantly thinking, oh yes, I need to remind myself that that's negative thinking. That's all that is, whatever is going on in my head. That's not reality, that's a thought. And then I go back into my day, and then I'm reminded of another way to take care of myself. But that's after many, 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 many years of not only being engaged in some form of self-care, but in reaching out to others in some kind of assistance capacity in their self-care, and watching how other people struggle, and then thinking how that relates to what I understand to be the struggle. And now it's just so much a part of my awareness that I don't know how I allocate time for it. It just sort of has become, period. It is like that, but perhaps that's not the most efficient way. Maybe I let things slip through the cracks, and it would be better to be more structured in it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think, anybody, do any of the three of you have, what do you think about that? Is it good to be more structured in it, or is the goal?
Yeah, I think it's like exercise. If you said, I'm feeling a little bit sluggish today, I better go for a jog. And then the next day you think, oh, no, I feel fine. I don't have to go for a jog. And, exercise is one of those things you just got to keep doing. You got to keep doing it every day and get a consistency to it. Because if you're only going to do it, if you're only going to exercise when you're feeling that you need it, then you're never gonna get on top of it. You'll always be behind. So I think it would be very much the same.
And there is research that shows that the essence of the exercise that we really need, just on the physical level, isn't to go to the gym once a day or take a yoga class at night. It's to exercise throughout the day. Get up and move around. I've been wearing this little band that reminds me when I've been on my duff for more than an hour.
Yeah.
It helps.
But that's the discipline mechanism, isn't it? Like that little, and I agree, that having a discipline around whatever it is that you're going to do regularly and have the commitment. And if it is, I mean, my preference is, it's a bit like drinking water. I say to my clients, the work that we do, especially energy work and clearance work, water is part of your medicine. This is part, see, everyone reach for their water. But water is such an important thing for us to have, right?
Thanks.
But you can't, like, it's not helpful to have to slug a litre of water twice a day. It's a bit like trying to take a drink from a fire hydrant. Your body can't assimilate it, can't absorb it, and therefore the work that you want to be able to do on that cellular level as well as the physiological, it's harder. So my take is, 10-minute bursts. If you're being mindful most of the time, Dion, and you've been paying attention to self-care for quite some time, as you said, then my question to you would be, what do you think you need to actually be doing more regularly with a commitment?
That's a good question. I'm not sure off the cuff I have an answer for that, because I engage. I feel like I do engage. Sometimes I live in LA, and this is the land of me. This is where it's a mecca for people who want to focus on themselves.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what should be a good thing, to be self-aware and self-knowledgeable, here becomes maybe not such a good thing. It's a little shallow and a little, focusing on the wonder of me, rather than really doing self-work.
The depth.
Yeah. But when it becomes, I'm really truly not sure what more. I know that there are new things that I will discover, because there are always new things, but I'm not sure that, I don't think I could. Years and years ago, a talk therapist suggested to me, because I had issues with worry. Worry was my big thing. And she said, okay, that's it. No more worrying all week except for 1 hour.
I love this. Yep.
Worry for 1 hour.
Yes. Yep.
And I made it for like 5 minutes, and that's all I could do. And that was, that was the lesson. And it did change me, where I realized, that the way that we think of, like the analogy of chugging a liter of water, doing all your worrying in 1 hour, like somehow that's possible. That there's a flow. Life flows. The day flows. The hour flows. The minute flows. And if you can just periodically wake up, because that's become your habit, then it's good. Good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fall back to sleep.
Yeah.
And then,
Fantastic.
you wake up with it's
yeah. I work a lot with in people with grief and trauma, and particularly when they've lost a loved one. Obviously, that intense grief can take over, and it can occupy your whole mindset, your whole being. And like your talk therapist said to you, Dion, is similar to what I will suggest to the people I work with. What if you could just take 15 minutes, let's start with 15 minutes, to go outside and to focus on the bird or the flower or the dog, just intensely watch what the dog's doing, look at every part of the dog, and just put the clock on. And so that's a 15-minute window that they're not still stuck in their grief. And then we can spread that time, and then we can make it 15 minutes or even half an hour in the morning, and we can do that in the afternoon as well. So already you're getting an hour a day outside of that that suction which grief can be. Grief and trauma can just suction you right in. It's like quicksand. And so it is kind of lifting it out just for a window of time. And, bit by bit, that when we're in that other space, we can notice that our mind is capable of coming out of that other zone. We are capable. I'd like to, if you don't mind, address the question that Pammy asked.
In fact, how about if I jump out and let Pammy come in?
I already offered to do that. And
come in and I'm like, take it over with questions.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, no,
we've thoroughly enjoyed you,
and I can't wait for the next one. And I get notices.
Awesome.
Jen, do I follow you?
You should.
Now.
And I have to go.
And let me get out of here before you lose your train of thought. It's been such a joy. Thank you for letting me join you. And I really super look forward to the next time. Very
awesome.
Very interesting.
So good to see you, Dion.
Thank you, Dion. It's been lovely having you pop in. Listen, before you go, tell us where people can find you.
I'm a
and what do you do?
Artist, and I do audio meditations. I do meditations, and I do guided meditations. And I've been a nearly lifelong practitioner of meditation and visualization from childhood. And then I have had my career as a film composer and voice artist. And I decided I have all these skills and I put them together. And so you can find me at quietself.com. I don't know where to put that in, but that's like, do I write it in? There you go.
I've already put it there.
Oh,
me too.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I didn't scroll up.
Please do. I'm connected with you guys here, but please do, there or shoot me an email through there or anything. But this stuff, you guys are speaking my language, so I'd like to talk with you, and I'll
fantastic.
Let me jump out.
And so, Dion, just before you go, I just want to say thank you so much, because I know we tried so hard last year.
I was in your fair country, and I was in Adelaide for 2 weeks in October. Yeah,
in Adelaide.
And
that's where I am.
Just hanging out. It's a beautiful city. I saw every museum. I loved it. Had a great time. I know, but it's funny, isn't it? Because I just connected with you, and then I came back to a rush of work, and I haven't been on Blab very much. I just haven't. So, but I'm back, paying attention to my notices again.
Well.
Yes.
Well, next time you're in Australia, you've got the north and the south.
I will. Thank you so much. And you're in your super early morning, aren't you?
8:45 where I am. 8:50.
Lovely to meet you, Dion.
Mid-morning.
Very interesting.
I've got to go.
Lots of love. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
nice
Brian.
to see
Thanks
you
for
again,
jumping
Brian. It's
in.
been a long time.
Thanks, heaps.
See ya.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See ya.
All the best for the year. So, Pammy. Okay. So about depression. 47 years old. You're trying to be happy, which I admire you for. Someone with depression who's really trying to be happy. I think that's incredibly admirable, and I realise how incredibly difficult it can be. How do you get past people, mainly in the workplace, who want to throw you under the bus all the time? This in turn makes you feel not liked, not good enough. Yeah. Do you want to jump in and we can have a chat? Because I've got some more questions about what might be going on for you in the workplace. They they want to pull you under all the time. I don't know what sort of things they might be doing
Pam
to
says her
you.
camera's not working, but she can respond in the comments.
Okay. Yeah. Voice? Yeah, okay. What sort of things are they doing that has you feel like that? Because often when people are just going about their business and turning up to interact in the workplace, people generally do it in the same way, day in, day out. We kind of get into our habits and our way of behaving and interacting with particular people. And that's based on, their perceptions of us and how we're responding to them. So it seems that they are behaving to you in a way that has you feel diminished, dragged under. I'm not sure what their behaviour is that's having you feel like that, but my guess is that it's working for them in your view, that they're putting you down because it's reflective somewhat of what you feel about yourself. I seem to always find these people that are messy talk about you. Okay, so I often think that when we feel diminished by other people, it's because we're actually diminishing ourselves. And so it's their words, tell the boss things that aren't, Okay, so difficult to do an individual case study over the Blab like this and to find out exactly, how to move it forward. But I would suggest that.
Doesn't it seem like sorry to cut in there, but it immediately I thought when I first read that comment that I can identify with this. I feel the same sometimes, and I find even with a couple of my friends make me feel like this, and after they come and visit and they leave, and I sort of feel a bit down, and I think, well, what's going on there? I can't speak for everyone, but personally, I think it's because I'm not confident with that person. I'm not confident about myself enough to sort of stand up for myself, and so I can agree with what you're saying, that it's not them. They don't know. They're not intending to put me down, and that's just their nature. And it's me. I'm feeling less adequate or something, and so it's something that I need to address for myself. So I wondered if maybe as building confidence.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Thanks for that example, Ven. I think that's helpful. I'll just give another example of someone who came to see me, and they said something similar, that, the guys are always putting them down at the workplace, and this is a tradie. And I said, so what's actually going on? Give me an example. What are they saying to you? How do you know they're putting you down? And so he said, well, one day they walked in and one guy said, are you still working on that? And I said, okay, let's look at that. Are you still working on it? What did that mean for you? Well, it means he thinks I'm a slow-ass worker. It means that I don't pull my weight. And he had all of these negative meanings for that. And I said, so let's look at those words again. Are you still working on that? Could it possibly mean that he can't believe that you've got the patience to stay with that mundane job for all that time that it takes to get it finished? Could it possibly mean that he admires you turning up to the same damn task every day? And he said, he never thought of those other meanings that could come from those very words, because his mind just drew him into what he thought of himself. Someone says, are you still working on that? And he feels as though, you know, he's long wanted to be doing something else. And oh God, I suck at this. You know, that's his own stuff. And then when someone says those words which have no reflection about the quality of his work, he turns it into that because of what he felt about himself. He hadn't even given those other meanings a thought. So I would say just evaluate a little bit more widely what might be going on. Give a little bit of reflection on yourself, or a lot of reflection. And maybe if you are suffering with depression, that it's almost a highlight in your life, I'd suggest that you check in with a professional to help, you know, just move through this, because it's not a nice place to be. And I tip my hat off to you that you're turning up to work each day anyway, even though you have depression going on. I mean, that's hard. So I'd say get in to see someone who can probably move you through this. And a tool I love to use is called EFT. It's very different, yeah. And it can be hard to reach out to somebody else as well, but I'd say you're probably not going to see the situation any differently, because it's still your own set of eyes turning up to work every day. And you're probably not going to wake up one day with a new set of eyes unless you've had somebody work with you to give some new sight to what's going on. I'd strongly suggest, because if you're 47, like some of this, we talked about habit before. We actually get used to what's going on in our lives. And so it's kind of like our best friend sitting on our shoulder. And that mightn't be the best friend you really want, even though it's the comfortable one at the moment because you're used to it. We all have our little best friend that is really a pain in the butt. But we all have it as, some people have it as anxiety. Some people have been referred to sleeplessness and everything that goes through his head at night, you know, and it kind of, when it becomes habitual, it's like it's our best friend because we're so used to having it. So we invite it back all the time, even without knowing it, until we do something really quite differently and dramatically. And I think that often takes checking in with somebody else. So, yeah, the technique I use is EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques. So I'm not sure where you live, Pammy, but if you could check out someone who is, you know, works with depression and does EFT as well, Emotional Freedom Techniques. If you want to know more about it, you can find a blurb on my website at margaretlambert.com. And there's a tab that's called EFT, the technique I'm referring to. Check it out, and you'll be able to Google a practitioner, if you like, in your area. And I find that technique works very, very well with depression and experiences that have led to you feeling the way you do. So that's, the best I can offer at the moment. Thanks, Ben. Always count on Ben to get it out there. I guess we'll finish on that note. Hopefully it can help other people. So thanks for being brave enough to put the question, Pammy, because I think your question is a question for others as well. You're not the only person feeling like you do. And Vin gave his personal example, which is, you know, very valuable as well. People can relate to it in their own way. And the replays of this Blab can be found through my webpage. So when people check in, they can actually get the benefit of your question there, Pam.
Can I just add,
thank you.
Can I just add, Margaret, that
go on.
You used to do Periscope EFT sessions, and they're all available still on catch.me/Marg Lambert.
Ah, yes.
So
Yeah.
Pam, you can
Thanks.
just have a look at that
Yeah.
and get an idea of what exactly EFT is.
Yeah. Thanks for that. The reminder there. I must get back to Periscope too. I haven't done one for quite some time. So I'm happy to finish off there. We've done the hour on this topic, that we went into all sorts of areas, which is wonderful. I often like the organic approach rather than, both work, to have structured sessions and to have an organic approach as well. So thanks to everyone who's contributed. And Vin, you're always a great mainstay here at Wellbeing Weekly.
Thanks,
so
Margaret.
Thank you. Any final words or a little bit about yourself
No,
as
not
well?
really. I can't think of anything more to offer, but I am Vin from Vintuitive. I'm based in Adelaide. I'm a web development and promotions business. So pop along to my website, vintuitive.com, if you want to know more.
Great, thanks. And I'm Margaret Lambert, psychologist, author and speaker, and Wellbeing Weekly Blab host every Wednesday at this time. Next week's topic is computers and health.
Yeah.
Might be one for you, Vin. Computers and health. It is hitting the media of late, in recent times. Are they good or bad for us? Where do you sit with all of that?
I have heaps to say about that.
Tune in next week. I thought you might. And I also host Spiritual Conversations on Friday, same time as this Wellbeing Weekly session, but it's on Friday. And this week's topic is, who inspires you? Hope we have some input, because I think some people's inspiration can inspire others as well. So let's open it up and let's inspire others by who inspires us. So hope to see people tuning in on Friday, Spiritual Conversations, and then next week again for Wellbeing Weekly. Thanks very much and catch you next time. Bye for now.